In 2015, the World Health Organization listed processed meats as carcinogenic for man. We decided to investigate the ingredients used by the giants of the food industry.
It can induce DNA breaks, mutate cells into sort of pre-cancer cells.
We discovered that to impede or halt regulations on certain additives, food industry lobbies have been working in the shadows for decades.
You have to understand that the industry is a money-making business, so they're very risk-averse. They're not going to fund a study that is bad for their business.
Ça ressemble pas mal à ce que faisaient les industriels du tabac, c'est-à-dire qu'ils payent des scientifiques pour dire le contraire de ce qui est vrai.
At the heart of this strategy of influence are the scientists who collaborate.
Did the meat industry pay you for this?
I received some compensation for my time as well as the others.
How much?
I am not going to say.
And the scientists who are targeted.
Basically, we're trying to shoot me down or discredit me. I mean, that's what shoot down means scientifically.
These efforts to go after the scientists and to discredit the scientists is a key element of a much larger strategy to just gum up the entire policy-making process.
If we take the meat from one animal and grind it up and make ground beef from just one animal, we're including only the bacteria from one animal. But if we take the meat from 1,000 different animals and grind that together, we're pooling the bacteria from 1,000 different animals as well.
So explain this to me. How many different cows would be in one burger?
Well, I suspect that there are hundreds or even thousands of animals that have contributed to a single hamburger.
Robert Tokes says this mixing together of so many different animals has opened up new ways to spread illness. A lesson clearly learned, he says, from the Jack in the Box disaster. Another lesson from the Jack in the Box outbreak was that the federal meat inspection system, based on laws written nearly 100 years ago, was dangerously out of date.
People who just love grounded up meat. This video is just for you. Understand that the United States do not have regulations on meat nowadays. Did you know that? Look at this. Majority of our meat actually comes from China. And look at this. When you think you're eating ground beef or ground turkey for that matter, you have no idea what you're eating. You have no idea what you're feeding your kids. You have no idea what you're putting in your body. Well, here's a look.
Tapeworms, which, believe it or not, very, very common. And once we get tapeworms in our system, they're very hard to eliminate. Parasites will reduce your immune system and put chronic stress on your body. A lot of these, and pork is one of the biggest carriers of parasites. So, you know, we look at the science, it just shows that we've got all these parasites in the animal products. And now we can cook, and we can try to really, really cook it at a high temperature to kill off as many of these parasites as possible. Actually so virulent, they're so resistant that they can survive even high heat. So, so an animal like pork, again, not a whole lot of vital nutrients that we can't get, really no vital nutrients that we can't get.
If you want to get your health back, it's time that you avoid this thing that some people call food.
Pigs are the filthiest animals on the earth, with the most parasites and diseases than any other animal that mankind consumes. Pigs are commonly associated with eating not only their own feces, but of other animals and humans.
Remove erroneous concepts. It is a filthy 1000% poison animal, not food. Food is defined in two parts: digestive activity and the cells benefit from the digestive activity. You're talking about something that's made up, 99.9% of its mass is made up of worms. A microscopic worm called trichini worm. Trichini comes from the word trypnos, which is a Greek word, means hair strand. And that's so small, it's about small as a hair strand. And it's advantage because it's so small that you can't directly look and see it like a roundworm or a tapeworm. It's just heat, so it curls up in the presence of heat. So meaning heat doesn't even kill all of it. I said 99.9% mass. I wasn't exaggerating because the rest of it is the fecal matter of the parasites. So this is literally a walking cesspool of waste, worms, and feces. What you eat, why the hell would you want to eat something that only eats waste? So when this trichini worm gets into the body, it starts shooting its eggs out by the millions and the billions. The cellular, where you can only really see it at a microscopic level, is that it's eating you. Your body is under a severe invasion. And they begin craving more of themselves. So it's taking over your brain. It's giving you what you think is your appetite. And this is why the Bible only said to this particular food, not only don't the definitions remove erroneous content.
It takes 24 hours to break down one meal. Well, that means that if I eat 2 meals, I'm living 2 days on the inside of my body, and I'm only living really 1. So I'm wearing out my system the more that I eat. But if you eat 3, now your body's still working on the tonic and the toxic from 1. Now you done slapped another meal on it. Now it's got to wrestle with the toxins from that. I can't get to all the toxins from the last meal because I'm working on this new. Then you come back with a snack. Then you come back. By the time we get finished with it, we are full of toxins. And we find ourselves suffering from illness and sickness unnecessarily. He said if you eat 1 meal a day and fast 3 days out of a month, he said you'll hardly ever get sick. He said, but if you don't want to ever get sick, just eat 1 meal and then nothing the next day, and then eat 1 meal every other day.
These parasites come from within the body, just like fruit flies and nets come from within the fruit. You will notice inside of each individual cell, you will find something moving around inside these cancerous cells, eating away at the anatomy of the cells, eating the iron phosphate out of the cells, eating the glucose factors out of the cells, eating the fructose factors out of the cells, eating the light code frequency that we're going to call carbon oxygen 2 constituents, or what you call CO2, up out of the cell. Every disease you're talking about, you have an evil entity that has manifested in a parasite that is inside of your body. A lot of people walking around with big guts and think that's food. No, you have a cesspool full of dead worms, fluke worms, hook worms, canker worms, tapeworms, hammerhead worms, Fasciolopsis bullski, hemith worm, toxoplasma, all types of trimidad, which causes chlamydia and gonorrhea. All these different things I'm talking about is the secretions that's coming from these different parasites that's jacking the body. Parasites are real. Parasites exist. There is not one disease that exists inside of the body that's not connected to a parasite nor a protein. And these parasites secrete certain secretions and hormones through their defecation in their urine that actually attacks and hijack your neural link and the capability of your melanin neurotransmitters communicating with themselves, for they can manifest themselves in your body and basically have you doing the wheel for them. So whenever you think about chickenpox, herpes, multiple sclerosis, MS, arthritis, itchy elbow disease, papillomavirus, HPV, any cancer, HIV, full-blown AIDS, diabetes, all of these are not only from what you eating, and it's not only a stress-related disease, but it's a bed of parasites that follow behind all of these things. HSV, which we talking about herpes simplex virus. You have the hemith worm, you have a glycoprotein antibody. We talking about HIV. We talking about the hemith worm, which his name is Fasciolopsis bullski. Guess what? We have that. Then we have a CD4 cell antibody connected to it. When you talk about diabetes, you're talking about a fluke worm that's driven himself deep within the pancreas, that's driven himself deep within the islands of Langerhans of the pancreas. And guess what you have? You have a glycophosphate backbone or protein connected to it. Any disease that you can name, any part of the anatomy of the body have been compromised, and mucus is coming in and obstructing the place, or there's toxemia and cellular acidosis waste built up in there. It's going to breed all types of parasites.